and welcome to my Pilates class. Please only do this class if you are relatively pain-free, don't have any back pain and no major sort of joint issues as well. Before you start the class, you're going to need a mat. I'd recommend a Pilates mat. If you don't have one of those, then please do make sure that if you're using a yoga mat, that you perhaps place a blanket over the top of it, or that you're doing it on a nice cushioned carpet rather than on a hard wooden floor as I am. You're going to need some head cushions. I've used a couple of folded hand towels. Again, I'm trying to use things that you might have around the house. You're also going to need, a chair. If you have a resistance band, that's great. If you don't, I'm going to show you how you can stretch using a belt or something that you've got at home. And you're also going to need a cushion or maybe another folded towel. And the cushion wants to be roughly 2 inches, maybe 3 inches when you squeeze together in the middle there, so not a really huge one. Okay, so I'll pop them there and we'll get started. So if we think about our standing posture to start with then. Take your toes apart and then the heels. Think about creating a parallel foot position, lining up with the bony points on the front of the hips here. And I want you to imagine that you're growing roots from your big toe, your little toe, and the heel of both of the feet there. So just gently taking the weight side to side, forwards and backwards, and then come to rest where you feel nice and grounded through all of the points in the bottom of the feet. And then once you're there, think about the knees being gently soft. Take hold of the hips. I want you to imagine that your pelvis is a bucket of water, full up to your waistband. We're going to tilt that pelvis forwards, pour the water out of the front waistband, tuck the tailbone under and pour the water out of the back waistband. So 2 or 3 times in each direction, and then come to rest in the middle of those extremes. So you'll have a comfortable extreme forwards, a comfortable extreme backwards, and then rest roughly in the middle of those extremes. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, soften down through your rib cage. Think about those collarbones being beautifully wide, your shoulder blades just gently tucked behind you, down away from your ears, and the back of the neck is long, that puppet string just gently growing you tall. So we're going to start off with an exercise called Toy Soldier. So when you're ready, engage through the centre, gently drawing up your pelvic floor muscles. If you haven't done this much before, I'm going to talk about it when I do the hundreds in a moment. So just think about gently drawing up, not to your maximum, but just a little. Then float the arms up to shoulder height. We'll slowly take one arm up, the other down, and back to the start. So start off nice and small. You can always increase the range of movement. Exhale as the hands part, inhale as they return. I'm going to do roughly 8 on each arm. And I want you to think about your body being a toy soldier, so it stays nice and still, and it's just those arms that can swing up and down as the rest of the body stays nice and still. So if you can, exhale as the hands part, inhale as they return. You'll see through this class, I'm not very good at counting and talking, so I'm going to do just a couple more on each side. But hopefully I will have done about 8, and if you think about building up to that number as well, if 8 seems too many to start with, then please do a couple less, and the next time you do it, you can always do add a couple more on. So I'm going to make that one my last one. Relax the arms down, give the shoulders a little shrug or a roll there as you finish. So we're going to need the chair as well to do our next exercise. So when you're ready, using that chair for support, maybe having 2 if you're really quite unstable, and position it the other way around if you need to, just to have a bit more support by the side of you. Focus on something in front of you that isn't moving. Engage through the centre, come up onto your toes and then lower. So I'm going to do this a couple of times. Keep the pelvis nice and level. If you can do this in a full-length mirror, it's brilliant because you can watch that pelvis and just see how it's moving for you. So this time we're going to come up onto the toes, bend one knee, place the other heel down, up onto the toes and change. Nice regular breaths all the way through. Keep hold of that chair all the way through the first time that you do this, please. It's really important. Try to check that pelvis in a mirror if you can. To get the most from this exercise, it's important that it stays level as we work those muscles that we'd use when we're walking in a nice controlled way. I'm going to do this exercise for roughly a minute. If you do this a few times and you find you're getting a little bit better, then by all means take your hand away from the chair, perhaps place them onto the hips to try and feel that if they're staying level. And then once you've done this video a couple of times, if you want to add in opposite hand to knee in that walking type movement, then again, please feel free to do so, but build up to this. It's really important that we master that pelvis staying level before we add in too much movement with the arms and not using that chair for support. So I can feel I'm just getting out of breath here a little as I'm talking. So I'm going to place my hand back onto the chair, finish on my toes, and then lower the heels nice and controlled. Again, to keep that pelvis level, controlling those feet down. If you need to give the feet just a little wiggle, then please do, especially if you weren't on quite such a cushioned floor or mat as myself. I'm going to move my chair just to one side, and then our next exercise is going to be an upper back warm-up. So again, when you're ready, engage through the centre, and then we'll roll both of the shoulders backwards, interlink the fingers, palms to the floor and chin to chest. Hold that stretch for a moment, then raise the hands up to shoulder height. A little stretch of the upper back. Allow it to return. Continue your hands and your gaze all the way up before opening wide and back to the start. So again, start off nice and small. If any of this is uncomfortable, just reduce the range of movement. You can also place one hand on top of the other. So if interlinking the fingers is uncomfortable, then please do that. So if we interlink the fingers, palms down and slowly chin to chest. Raise the hands up to shoulder height. There's a roundness to the arms. So my elbows are a little bent. Gentle stretch of the upper back. Allow those shoulders to return back. Then continue your hands and your gaze just as far as is comfortable before opening wide. So we're going to do another couple of these. I absolutely love this exercise. In the morning, if I'm feeling a little stiff in my head, neck, shoulders, it really is lovely. But it's important that we take it just as far as is comfortable. So a little stretch of that upper back. Continue your hands and your gaze all the way up and then opening wide. So one last one. Rolling the shoulders, interlink the fingers, palms down and chin to chest. Slowly raise the hands up to shoulder height. A little stretch of the upper back. Allow the shoulder blades to return. Then continue your hands and your gaze all the way up as far as is comfortable before opening wide. So give those shoulders a little shrug if you need to. And then we're going to come down onto the mat in just a moment. So I'm going to grab my belt, my cushion, and then make my way onto the floor. So if you'd like to do so as well. If you have any lower back pain, please come down onto the floor on your side first and then rolling over onto your back. It's really important that you're kind to yourself, to your spine, to your tummy muscles, and then make yourself comfy there. And with the head cushions, we don't want them to be too high. We want to just provide a little bit of support there underneath the head. So as you're lying here, making yourself comfy, think about those feet being hip width apart. The knees as well want to line up with the bony points on the front of the hips. So we're creating some tram lines there with the legs. And then we're going to think about our neutral spine position, this lower back again. So if you very gently flatten and arch the lower back, just a couple of times in each direction, like we did when we were standing, and then come to rest in a midway position. So we can check that midway position because we want our belly button, the two bony points on the front of the hips and that pubic bone, we want all of those points in the pelvis there to be level with each other. So if you find that one is much higher than the other, just a little tilt either way again, coming to rest where you're in that midway position and all those points are level with each other. Soften down through the ribs, especially the ribs on the back of the rib cage. The collarbones are wide, those shoulder blades tucked behind you, and the back of the neck long, hopefully with just the head on the head cushion. So we're using those lovely strong muscles in the back of the neck. So I said I was going to talk about engaging through the centre a little more, and this is when I'm going to do it. So our pelvic floor muscles help to engage a corset of muscles that supports us, not only when we're exercising, but also when we're sitting, moving, and it really is good for not just the health of our spine, but the rest of the body as well. So the pelvic floor muscles, the muscles of the back passage, the front passage, and if you're female, the vagina as well. And it's important that we just draw them up without squeezing the buttocks, without using the tummy muscles or the legs. It's just internally drawing up inside you. So we'll have a maximum that we can do that. If you practice that now, strongly drawing up as hard as you can to your maximum, and then relax. Do that 2 or 3 times. We'd only hold that max for about a second and then release it. So for Pilates, we want a bit less than half, 30% of your maximum. So the way I describe in my classes is if you think about it being just a little less than half, and then we need to hold it, we need to breathe, and we're going to start moving as well. So we're going to use that folded towel or head cushion that I asked you to grab earlier. Place it between the knees, and then for our hundreds, this is what we're going to do. So relax everything off, just check you're in that midway position with the pelvis. Engage through your centre, so only 30 to 50% of your maximum, and gently squeeze the knees on the cushion. If you can, pulse the arms. Nice regular breaths all the way through, and we're going to try and hold that contraction, hold your centre for roughly 60 seconds or the count of 100. So if you feel you lose that connection, just relax the arms, draw it up again, and then continue. And our pelvic floor muscles are muscles just like in the rest of the body. We need to gradually build up their endurance. We shouldn't expect them to be able to work, to run a marathon, for example, without putting some training in. So don't beat yourself up if it takes a couple of goes to do this. That's perfectly normal. If, however, you have done Pilates before, then by all means, just holding that contraction. You don't have to have the cushion there. Sometimes it's quite nice to do it with or without. And I'm going to give you a slightly harder exercise to do. Once you've mastered this, for the count of 100, we're going to have to take that cushion out. If we all change our hand position, so if you're sticking with that level 1, please do. Level 2, we would float one leg into what we call a single tabletop. So we have 90 degrees at the knee. The knee is directly over the hip, creating 90 degrees there as well. And if you come to do this video again and you decide to do the level 2 from the start, we want to spend roughly half the time with each of our legs in that single tabletop. So I'm going to change over legs. I think we've got about 15, maybe 20 counts left. It depends how fast you count. But like I say, approximately a minute. If you feel it's too much, relax those arms down and just rest out those last 5 or so counts. So relax the arms down, relax the foot down, and we're going to stretch out by hugging the knees in towards the chest. So as this class is only 30 minutes, if you feel I'm rushing any of these stretches, please do press pause, spend a little longer if you feel that would be more beneficial for you doing any of these stretches. So holding onto one knee, place the other foot onto the floor And then gently lengthen that foot away, just as far as is comfortable. If it straightens, that's great. If not, please do stop before you get to that straight position. Change over legs when you're ready. We're getting a lovely stretch through the front of the hips here as well. And then once you feel you've stretched both sides roughly the same, placing those feet back down into our starting position. So our next exercise is going to gently lengthen us all the way through the body. If you get a little mixed up with the legs and the arms moving, then please do choose the first time to do one or the other, and then gradually build up with the movement. So for our double leg stretch then, we're going to engage through the centre. Float the arms up so the hands are directly above the shoulders. Turn your palms in. Imagine you're holding a beach ball lightly in your hands. And then we're going to slowly take the arms overhead as one foot lengthens away. Circle the arms around as the foot returns. We'll do the same on the other side. So my arms come overhead, and I'm drawing a semicircle or a D shape on either side. Exhale as you lengthen. Inhale as you return. Those hands are mirroring each other. So one circles one way, one is doing that semicircle, the other. And we're going to do roughly 8 of these. So we're probably about halfway. If you feel that's enough for you, relax the arms down. You can always continue just with the legs if need be. And one last little thing to think about. As the arms come overhead, I want you to keep this rib cage softly anchored down towards the hip bones. So it's just those arms again working hard as one leg at a time lengthens. And I'm going to do one more on this side before relaxing those arms down, and just relax there on the mat for a moment. So our next exercise that we're going to do is going to be our hip twist level 1. We're going to work and strengthen these supporting muscles around the outside of the hips. We're going to stretch them in a moment, but to start with, we're going to gently work them. So before we start, if we think about those bony points on the front of the hips again, imagine you've got a tray of drinks balanced across that lower tummy. And we want to keep the hip bones nice and steady, not allowing that tray of drinks to fall. Place your hands onto the front of the hip bones there. Engage through the centre. And then slowly take one knee out to the side, and then it returns. So we're just going to move that knee a few inches to start with. It's not a huge stretch. Like I say, we're going to stretch in a moment. And we want to control the leg or the knee as it moves away and as it returns. Keeping this tray of drinks beautifully balanced there across the lower tummy. Exhale as the knee moves away. Inhale as it returns. And then I want you to imagine you've taken a drink from the tray, placed it on the stationary knee. We want that to stay as still as possible as well. So again, on this side, place that drink onto the knee so that it stays still. Roughly 8 on each leg. I think we're probably up to about 5 or 6 at the moment. So just a few more. I'm not too strict when it comes to counting. I leave it up to you to work out if you're able to do the exercise as I have asked, and it's roughly a maximum. So I'm going to do a couple more. Exhale as the knee moves away, inhaling as it returns. If you have already finished, then please do rest there on the mat for a moment. And I'm going to make this one my last one. And then relax those arms. And as I mentioned before, we're going to stretch out now into our glutes. So if you have had a hip or a knee replacement fairly recently, please just hug the knees in towards the chest like we did before. If, however, you know you're fairly comfortable to place one foot on top of the other knee, then please do so. We want to feel the stretch up into this upper thigh, into our glutes. If you can't feel that stretch, then please gently press away on the knee in front of you. Nice regular breaths when we're doing these stretches. Don't worry about engaging the centre or your pelvic floor. It is just a time to rest, relax, stretch, and feel the benefit from those stretches. So we'll change legs. Again, nice and gently check that you're comfortable with that foot on top of the knee. If you can already feel the stretch, then please hold it there. If you can't, gently press away on the knee in front of you. And then that should increase the stretch gently for you. So nice regular breaths as you hold this stretch. And then place your other foot back down onto the floor there in our starting position again. So I said I was going to show you how to stretch through your hamstrings as well. I'm going to do that now. So if you would like to grab hold of a TheraBand, a resistance band if you have one. If not, perhaps a sturdy belt, and place one foot, if you can, into the middle of that belt. Take hold of both ends into one hand. Keep this knee a little soft and just allow that leg to lengthen, if you can, towards the ceiling. We're feeling the stretch in the back of the thigh there. Relax through the shoulders. So allow that shoulder to relax, and nice regular breaths all the way through. So again, if you want to hold this stretch a little longer, please do. And I'm going to change over legs. And you can always do a couple more of these stretches at the end if you'd like to. So placing that foot into the band, the knee is soft. The shoulder is relaxed, and we're feeling the stretch in the back of the thigh there. Regular breaths all the way through as you're stretching. And then once you feel you've stretched both sides roughly the same, we're going to take that foot out of the band and place the belt or band, whatever it is you're using, just out of your way there. And we're going to finish off with a hip twist, level 2. So this isn't any harder than the level 1, it's just a slightly different movement. So when you're ready, zip your feet and your legs together. We want to imagine that inside seam of your trousers or your leggings has now super glued together all the way down to the feet. We can't move that. Take the arms out to the side. If you can, turn the palms up towards the ceiling. That just helps to tuck those shoulder blades behind you. And we want the hands just slightly lower down than the shoulders. Again, that keeps the shoulders down away from the ears, in a much kinder position there for the shoulders. So when you're ready, engage through the centre, keeping those feet zipped together. We're going to slowly take our knees to one side. Our head is going to turn to look in the opposite direction, and then back to the start. And we'll do the same on the other side. So knees one way, head slowly looking in the opposite direction, and then back to the start. So hopefully you can see my feet have stayed zipped together. Start off with a nice small movement. If you can comfortably go a little further, one foot should end up on top of the other. That's going to keep the pelvis in a nice neutral alignment. So that really is important. But just taking those knees and the head as far as is comfortable for you. The shoulders always maintaining contact with the floor. And I'll bring in the breath cycle now if you'd like it. We exhale as the knees and the head look away from each other. Take an in-breath to increase that stretch. And then exhale as you return. Inhale to check your body position. Then exhale as the knees and head look away. Inhale as you stretch. And exhale as you return. Again, another in-breath. Just checks that body position when you've returned back to our starting position. So we're going to do a couple more on each side. Please do just as many as is comfortable for you. Again, I absolutely love this exercise. It just gently wrings out the spine with that head and knees looking in opposite directions. But it is important that we build up our range of movement. Start off small and then gradually build up. And build up to perhaps 8 repetitions on each side. So I'm going to do just a couple more. And then one last one on either side. And then when you have finished the last one, relaxing those arms back down by your side. And take the feet back to hip width. So we're going to come up into standing. Please do take your time. Roll over onto your side first perhaps before you come up into that standing position. If anyone has vertigo, take an extra moment if you need to. And then we're going to do one last exercise, just using a wall space or perhaps the back of a door, not a glass door like I've got here. But if you do have a door, then you could use that as well. I'm going to move my mat just to stand on so my feet don't slip. But if you've got a wooden floor like me, then perhaps popping some trainers on so that the feet don't slip, please. So come up against the wall. I know I'm a little bit further away now, I'm afraid, but have those feet, again, hip width apart, and you want to have them roughly one of your foot's distance away from the wall. And then just bend those knees a little, allow your back and your hips to rest against the wall there. And the back of the head, maybe not quite. I can feel my ponytail is just touching on the wall there. So just resting there as you do so. Then when you're ready, we're going to do a couple of little roll downs. So when you're ready, engage through the centre. Slowly roll chin to chest, nose to breastbone. Keeping those knees soft. Allow your back, if you can, one vertebrae at a time to come away from the wall. Bend the knees a little further if you need to. Come down just as far as is comfortable for you. Then when you're ready, tuck that tailbone under. So stack the hips first and then rebuild that spine nice and gently, one vertebrae on top of another, back up into standing. So we're using the wall to give us a little bit of feedback. We're not pressing the spine into the wall in a hard way, but it just shows me if I have any stiff sections. So nice and gently, coming all the way down, using an out breath if you can. Once you get to the bottom, 1 or 2 in breaths, then using another out breath, tuck that tailbone under and restack all the way back up. So I'd recommend 3 or 4 of these. If you have any secondary cancer of any of your bones, perhaps not doing this against the wall. I'm going to show you how you can do it just using a mat as well. But if you're comfortable using that wall, it does just give you a little bit of feedback. So if I do a couple in standing as well. So slowly exhale as you roll, chin to chest, nose to breastbone. The knees are soft. Come down just as far as is comfortable for you. And then restack all the way back up. Again, exhale on the way down. 1 or 2 in breaths when you reach the bottom. And exhale, tuck that tailbone under first. So we restack the hips. And then if you can, rebuild that spine. Imagine it's building blocks, one on top of the other. Glide the shoulder blades down and the back of the neck returns nice and long. So we're going to do a little stretch just to finish, a little cool down. If you would like to take your feet slightly wider, turn those toes out on a 45-degree angle. And then when you're ready, check that that's a comfortable distance for you to be able to bend the knees. If you need to take the feet slightly wider, please do. And the knees want to be tracking over the toes. So we're just opening out through the front of the hips here. So when you're ready, bend the knees, take the arms out to the side. One hand on the hip, the other arm stretches upwards, gently over, circles in front, and then back to the start. Same on the other side. So nice regular breaths all the way through. And we're going to do one more on each side, just with this basic movement. And again on this side. So straighten that leg, it just increases the stretch a little before we come back around. So this time I'm going to add in 3 arm circles. So once we're in this position, circling that arm around 3 times, 1, 2, and then 3. Once you're back to that starting position, we return again. And again on this side. Circle that arm around nice and gently 3 times in one direction. And then back to your starting position and relax the arms. So I'm going to do one more on each side. I'm going to try and circle the arms in the opposite direction this time. So if you can, remember. And then once you've done 3, that might have been 4, I can't remember. Back to that starting position, and then last one on this side. And I'll try and count this time. So that's 1, and 2, and then 3. And then back to your starting position. Straighten the legs a little, slowly bring those feet back in to hip width apart. So if we roll the shoulders a couple of times, glide those shoulder blades down at the back, and then we're going to slowly loosen off through the head and neck a little. Turn to look over one shoulder, back to the start and across to the other side. So if you'd like to repeat this on either side, please do so. I'm going to do it just once, but if you want to, you can. Slowly lower one ear down towards the shoulder. And again on the other side. It can be quite a strong stretch, so just nice and gently. And then once you're back to that starting position, lower chin to chest, stretching through the back of the neck. And then gently stretch the chin towards the ceiling. So we're stretching through the front of the throat here, not throwing the head back too far. And chin to chest one last time. And this time, as you lift your gaze, keep the back of the neck long. Imagine that puppet string gently growing you tall. So if we shrug or roll the shoulders, give those arms a little wriggle, start moving the feet. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully it has worked your centre just a little, but also mobilised you as well. If you really enjoyed it, then please do feel free to donate to the Breast Cancer Havens for using this video. I know they could really do with it at the moment. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you next time.